when it comes to trade or entry and scaling in on multiple trade positions, there is a methodology behind profitably making the most of market movements. I'll be breaking down in this video how I caught 400 pips from GBP USD trades I got in on last week. As you are well aware, I start doing my analysis based on the higher time frames, starting from the weekly and the daily time frames, just to get an overall view of what's happening. And on GBP USD from the weekly time frame, I noticed as at the time I started stacking up my reasons to go short. Something very interesting on GBP USD from the weekly time frame here. We clearly had price printing us higher highs and higher lows. And then in the bullish market structure, and we had a nice structure shift to the downside. With this being our previous swing low. So we had this as the higher low that led to this higher high. And then having seen the break of this previous higher low structure, confirmed the shift in market structure from a bullish sentiment to bearish sentiment. So the very first thing we would notice from the daily time frame is the fact that we had a structure shift from bullish to bearish, and then also confirming the shift in market structure here would be the fact that from the weekly time frame, price presented us a sharp reversal pattern being the head and shoulder pattern. And this also confirms the shift in market structure from bullish to bearish environment. And then looking at the daily time frame, I'd also noticed from the daily time frame we're at this level right here being the swing low, being the higher low that led to this higher high from the daily time frame perspective. And then as soon as we had the daily candlestick close below this level, this kind of confirmed the structure shift also from the daily time frame perspective from a bullish market structure to a bearish market structure. So clearly we had the weekly time frame in a bearish market structure. We had also the daily time frame in the bearish market structure. And just to take this a step further, looking at the 4-hourly time frame also, without saying much, you'd notice very clearly the 4-hourly time frame also in a bearish market structure, where you would notice the structure shifts to the downside as soon as we had this impulsive movement. Then we had this being a lower high and then a lower low. So we have this being the most recent lower high that led to this swing low, this lower low is about here. So the 4-hourly time frame also, as established right here, is in a bearish market structure. Now, guys, I don't sleep on trade opportunities like this when I have the majority of my time frames in sync. What do I mean by that? When I have the weekly, the daily, and the 4-hourly time frames speaking the very same language, as you have noticed, we have the weekly time frame in a downtrend, we have the daily time frame in a downtrend, and then we have the 4-hourly time frame also in downtrend. There's no reason on earth why I would want to be looking for buying opportunities. Having these 3 time frames to the downside, I only want to look to sell, as certainly this will provide me higher probability trade setups in line with the higher time frame directional bias. And taking this back to the weekly time frame, once again, having noticed the shift in market structure from bullish to bearish, from the weekly time frame also, like I established previously, we had a reversal chart pattern, which is head and shoulder pattern. And then with a confirmed break of the neckline. We have a confirmed break of the neckline somewhere around the level this is where we had the confirmed break of the neckline of our head and shoulder pattern. And then, having seen this weekly candlestick closing below this structured level, what I needed to do was wait for price to trade back into this level where I was potentially looking to sell GBP USD all the way to this support level right about here. So clearly we have a break, a weekly break and close below the neckline of the head and shoulder pattern. Structured level, previously the level acted as a support right here, and then also right here we had the level as a support, and then a broken support becomes a new resistance. So having identified every one of these from the weekly time frame, I knew GBP USD was going to be providing us massive selling opportunities to the downside. And then this is where I scaled down to the lower time frames to capitalize off the higher time frame directional bias, and then pretty much took advantage of every selling opportunities the lower time frames presented me right here on GBP USD. So I was considering the level around as my overall anticipated take profit level for. However, I had also a first level target where I had the majority of my take profit set, or every of the sales code positions I got in on. The 2500 psychological level, going to the fact from B that was a major structural level. So even though this is my overall anticipated or projected take profit level as seen from the weekly time frame, I had this level as a level of concern from B. So I practically was waiting for the retest of the weekly structural level being the neckline of the head and shoulder pattern as established from the weekly time frame, where I had my first sell entry trade and then my take profit target for 1.2500 psychological round number level. And very shortly, I will be explaining in details how I had gotten on every one of the sell trade opportunities. Moving down to the 4-hour time frame. So this is our weekly area of interests, the neckline of the head and shoulder pattern, as we seen from the weekly time frame earlier. And then having clearly noticed the 4-hourly time frame was in a bearish market structure, with this level being our lower high level and then being the lower low level, I needed to see price come back to it retest the 50 exponential moving average and also my area of interests, psychological round number 1.27,000 present at the level. And then the next thing, after identifying my area of interest, was to wait patiently for price to come back into my already identified area of interests, where I was potentially looking to get in on selling trade opportunities. And then just as we approached my area of interests, but noticed this very farly bullish candlestick. And this is where majority of folks would tend to think, oh, the trade seems no longer valid for sale anymore. But then, once you understand market structure, you know very well this, as long as price stays below our previous lower high level, every one of these are only just pullbacks. So this is more like a 100% retracement. As long as price stayed below the previous lower high level right here, which I ended up seeing the rejection after the nice bullish momentum, breaking above by area of interest. And then price had closed just back within the previous lower high level, more like signifying that this setup could still very much be valid. I patiently waited to see the next candlestick that closed after that. And then this is where it starts getting even more interesting, guys. You can see we had 1 to 3 very bullish hourly candlestick price rally into this previous structured level. As you can see from the 4 hourly time frame, we had the level as a support right here, and when we're beneath the level, we had the level as a resistance. So we are back to the level, making this level a structured level. Then we had this nice bullish momentum candlestick testing the level, had a nice rejection, closing just right back at the level. And then the next candlestick that would form is not as bullish as the previous candlesticks. And then it's not even a buy candlestick. This is now a selling candlestick, kind of telling me that the momentum, the buying momentum is slowing down right at the level. And then because I knew that even though price had traded above by identified area of interest, we're coming right into a fairly structured level as I've established. This is where I scaled down to the 15 minutes time frame to look for entry confirmations to get in on sell positions. Let me take out this weekly level, as we would not be needing that anymore. And then also moving down to the 15 minutes time frame. Now this is where I needed to see a shift of the market structure. With this being the previous higher low that led to this higher high. So if I was going to consider selling GBP USD, I needed for price to come and close below this level. So I had my eyes on these levels, where if I was going to look to get in on the sell trade, I wanted to see a break of this structured level and then a retest to get in on the sell trade to the downside. And now this is where, having identified my 15 minutes time frame structured level, I'd patiently wait to see how the market plays out. We're still trading. Above this level, the 15 minutes time frame higher low level. And now I noticed this bearish momentum candlestick closing below the structured level, even though I'd have expected this to come a little bit to the downside. But then I was fine with just this movement alone. If you take this to the line chart, you can see very perfectly we have broken the structured 15 minutes time frame structured level, shifting the market structure now from a bullish environment to a bearish environment. And then I can take this back to the candlestick. I needed to quickly swap that to the line chart just to clearly identify where we had the clear structure shift as soon as I had this. And then, like I explained, having that shift in market structure from bullish to bearish was where I now was waiting for a retest of the 15 minutes time for a structural level to going on shorts. As you can see, we have the level as support right here. And clearly we are below the level, below the 15 minutes time frame exponential moving average. Now, guys, you can see how this keeps getting interesting. All the way from the weekly time frame, we started working our way down with the weekly time frame in the bearish market structure, the daily time frame in the bearish market structure, the 4-hourly time frame in the bearish market structure, the 1-hourly time frame in the bearish market structure, the 15 minutes time frame in the bearish market structure. You can see every one of these time frames are to the downside. Now, this gives the probability of this trade going in my anticipated direction a very higher probability. And at the retest of the 15 minutes time frame structure level, now, having seen this nice rejection candlestick close from a structure level, previously the level was a support, and now a broken support becomes a new resistance. Also, rejection candlestick from the 50 exponential moving average, and because we are seeing the candlesticks below the exponential moving average, in this case expected to act as a dynamic resistance also. And that was my entry signal for sell. Stop loss above. And then with the take profit targets, at the 1.25,000 psychological round number level. And as soon as I entered for sell, this is where I'd patiently wait for the market to play out. Just so this will play 2 moves faster. Let's take this to the 4-hourly time frame. So now I had my sell trade moving nicely, and almost very quickly, price came back to our entry. And then we had a quick drop from that level, as you can see right here. Now, as soon as I add this nice bearish momentum stepping to the market, confirming that the sellers had pretty much dominated the market, this is where I knew there was nothing that would stop price from getting to my anticipated take profit level here. And now all I needed to do was identify structured levels where I would potentially wait for price to come back into for entry opportunities. And I noticed this structured level from the 4-hour time frame, as you can see. For every of the times we tested the level from the upside, we had the level held up as support right about here, support, and when we're below the level, as you can see, the level held up as resistance, the level here as resistance, and here when we're above the level as support. So now we're clearly seeing what the 4-hourly candlestick break below the level. And then this is where I needed to wait for price to come back to this level, a structured level, as you can see. Looking to the left, we've seen price tested the level multiple number of times, and I've had to bounce off of the level. And now because we're below the level, the previously broken level of support becomes a new resistance. So this is where I was waiting for price to come back into to get the next sell trade opportunity. The 4-hour structure level. You can see started coming nicely into the level, and as soon as we add the first tap of the level where I was potentially looking to enter for sell, this takes me down again to the 15 minutes time frame for entry confirmations. Now, this is our structure level. We had nicely tapped into the 4-hourly structure level. psychological round number 1.26300. And then again, this is where I identify the market structure and then wait patiently for a shift of the market structure from the 15 minutes time frame from bullish to bearish. So I had this level as a low that led to this high right about here. And now we have a new high that is higher than the previous high. This moves my structure level from this level to this level, as this being the low, the higher low that led to the higher high level right about here. So now all I want to see price do is have a break of this previous higher low, shifting the market structure from bullish to bearish already on the 15-minute time frame. And then at the retest of this level, I would then look to get in on the sell trade. Now price kept on printing even more highs. Giving us an even more solid market structure. Now we can clearly see we have a break of this structure level, shifting the market structure from bullish to bearish again, once again. So clearly now we're having every one of the time frames again to the downside: the weekly bearish, the daily bearish, the 4-hourly bearish, the 1-hourly bearish, and now the 15-minute time frame has shifted from bullish to bearish, making any sell trade setup a higher probability trade setup. And like I explained right here, all I needed was just for this to happen. Here. And then clearly price had played out nicely, as you can see. This level here. Now giving me even more confirmations why I needed to sell on this was the fact that price presented us a nice head and shoulder pattern. And then we had the break of the neckline right about here. And then we had the retest of the neckline, a retest of the exponential moving average 50. And then what followed after that was the nice bearish momentum candlestick closing below the 15 minutes time frame structure level, being the neckline of the head and shoulder pattern. Previously level of support, now turned the resistance. And then as soon as I had that 15 minutes time frame momentum candlestick close off of the structure level, off of the exponential moving average, was where I had my second entry confirmation for sell, my stop loss. Just above the head. And then, like we had established previously, the take profit 1.25,000 psychological round number, bearish momentum candlestick was, and then this is where I waited for price to play out, just as expected. Having gotten a perfect sell entry on my second trade position right here. So I had to deal with a bit of drawdown. As soon as I entered for sell, before the bearish momentum pretty much stepped right back into the market again, moving this trade back into profit. Right now, yeah, we're back in profit. And then this is where, moving again back to the 4-hourly time frame, as soon as I had another 4-hourly time frame break of structure right about here, as you can see. So previously we had this being a lower low structure, and then we had a potential lower high, and then we're having to see price now break below the previous 4-hourly time frame structure level, shift, putting this back in even more bearish movements. This is where now I'd moved my stop loss on the first trade, which I still had running as at this time, right into deep profit, just at the previous. So I had the first trade position now completely risk-free, and then the second trade position now in deep profits. And now clearly the 4-hourly time frame had a sell-off that led to yet another break of market structure. Now, if you pay attention to the previous data points at the retest of this level, you can see very clearly how the level previously held up as a resistance right about here when we're below the level. And then we're having to see now where the level as a support. The level as a support right here, support once again, support right here, and then here as a support. And clearly we have a break of the level. And now again, this is where I was waiting now again for a retest of this structured level, previously a support, now turned to resistance, to get in on yet another sell trade. All because I understood from the higher time frames, the weekly and the daily time frame, that price needed to get to this level. And I'm capitalizing off the higher time frame directional bias because I paid attention to the higher time frames, guys. And now, again, I'd wait for price to come right back into the level here. Now, this is where, having seen price trade back to the level quickly, I'd scaled down again to the 15 minutes time frame for entry confirmation for sell, which for me would be a shift in market structure. And now from the 15 minutes time frame, clearly we have this being a higher high. There's this being the previous low structure. For me, if I would consider going in on sales, would be at the break of that level and then maybe a quick retest of the level. You see how we tapped very nicely. In just a few pips, we had traded back again to the upside without having that perfect break of the level. Now, guys, we have ourselves a new high that is higher than the previous high. So we'll have a higher high right about here. And now this takes my structural level away from this point now to this point, with this being the low that leads to this high. So perfectly now, I was waiting for a break of this level and then at the retest of this structured level to get in on sales from the 15 minutes time frame. Now you can see how just what I had explained perfectly happening right about here. And then this is where, once again, I had my confirmation to go short. As you can see, we have ourselves yet another head and shoulder pattern, being a sell reversal chart pattern, a break and a retest of 15 minutes time frame structured level. And then at the potential right shoulder, I got in on my sell trade. With this being the third. Sell trade, I'm capitalizing off just one price movement or a nice 1 to 3 risk to reward here. And now at this point where I got in on the third sell trade, I had the first and second positions completely risk-free in very decent profit. just to take this to the 4-hourly time frame. Now I have 3 sell trades running. And then at this point, my first trade had moved the stop loss way more into profit right at this level. And then the second trade position had secured some profit with both trades completely risk-free. So I have 2 trades risk-free, and I have just 1% risk on the third sell trade position right here. And then you can see how quickly price tapped into the 1.25 thousand psychological round number level. And then again, the very same thing played out. Nice. Yet another candlestick break of this level. Structure keeps repeating itself. Now I have these 3 trades all closed completely with 400 pips profit secured. And now because I understood that the market still has way more direction to the downside, this is where I got in on yet a 4th sell trade position. I pretty much was waiting for the retest of this level, structured level. If you look to the left, you can see for every of the times price had tested the level, we have had to see price bounce off of the level. And now this is where, having identified the break of the structure, I was waiting for the retest of this level to go in on the next sell trade. And then as soon as we add that tap of the level, this takes me down again to the 15 minutes time frame. And then again, all I needed to do from the 15 minutes time frame is wait for a structure shift once again, with this being my structured level, where if I was going to consider selling, I would want to see price come and break below that level. And then let's see how this ended up playing out. You can see how we still are not getting in on the sales yet because that level has not yet been broken. And then we are having to see price now point us a new high level. So we still have this as my 15 minutes time frame structured level. Now we have even more highs. So I'm taking that from this level right about here. So now this is the structured level where I'm waiting for price to nicely have that break. And then the retest. So going on the sell from the 15 minutes time frame. Now, guys, we'll have price present us yet another high. So this moves now to this level right about here. So that becomes my new structured level. So at the break and a retest of this level is where I would be looking to get in on sales. Now, yes, guys, we have ourselves the perfect shift in structure from bullish to bearish on the 15 minutes time frame. And now all I needed was for the nice retest. Now, guys, as you can see again, once again, we are having ourselves a perfect case of a short pattern, with this being the left shoulder, head, and then the potential right shoulder, where I add my sell entry confirmation as soon as I had the nice momentum candlestick close off of the right shoulder, off of the potential right shoulder of the head and shoulder pattern, off of the 15 minutes time frame structure level. I add my entry just at the next week retest of that level. And for this, I was pretty much targeting just a 1 to 3 because it was a Friday, the end of the trading week. I did not want to hold this for the weekend, even though I still had way more distance to my overall take profit level. So yeah, I targeted a 1 to 3 risk to reward. And then just as I had my trade triggered for the fourth sell trade opportunity right here, price moved a little bit in my direction. And then very quickly, we had a stop hunt. Price quickly took out my stop loss right here, only to end up moving as expected. So we had this stop hunt. As you can see, this is less than 3 pips. And then only for price to immediately head way much to the downside. Now, no regrets on this. At this point, I banked over a 1 to 12 risk to reward. So giving up just a 1 hour on this still leaves me with a perfectly decent profit for the week. You can see how this is very crazy, guys. Every one of the predictions for last week played out. Gospel. And now we have the markets close for the week right about here. I'm still very much going to be getting in on sales at the open of markets this week. Hopefully, price comes back to this level again, where I will scale down to the lower time frames once market opens to get in on sale. And now, guys, it's pretty much the very same thing. The open of markets, patiently wait for the right session, and then once price trades back to this level, scale down to the 15 minutes time frame again, look for the shift in structure from the 15 minutes time frame, and then at the retest of the structure level, preferably for more confidence, I would love to see a sharp reversal pattern, a head and shoulder pattern. If that doesn't happen, I would love to see a break and a retest of 15 minutes time frame structure level, a retest of 15 minutes time frame 50 exponential moving average, and then I would be looking to get in on yet another sell trade from this level at the open of markets next week. I do hope you find this educational and very informative. Do leave me your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think about this breakdown?